Are you looking for inspiration, peace, and a deeper connection with your soul? If you're ready to investigate your higher truth, take a deeper look inside, and discover a better way to live, stay tuned for Higher Soul Living, where we ignite your divine intelligence for life. With me, Reverend Christine Hart-Savage. I experienced a profound spiritual awakening that was so life-changing. It took me into a 30-year career as a metaphysical life coach and breathwork expert. I've mentored thousands of people through their personal challenges, anxiety, self-doubt, and search for meaning. Higher Soul Living is about choosing to live the higher way. It's about taking conscious ownership and drawing spiritual intelligence into your everyday life. Join me on a search for higher truth to find hope, connection, and happiness. The Higher Soul Living Show starts now. Hello everyone, this is Reverend Christine Hart-Savage here. We have this beam of light coming from the ceiling today. I don't think I usually have that. In fact, I could stand right underneath it. Look at that. If anyone's actually watching the video part, I've got this beam of light coming into the top of my head. Anyway, I'm going to move to the left of it. All right, today we're going to be speaking about stress, a little bit about stress first and then spirituality, and what stress and spirituality mean together. Like, how does stress affect your spiritual connection and your spiritual development? And I've got a couple of stories to tell you as well. So look, most people know these days that stress is really not healthy. There's a lot of information out there. So we can look anywhere and we'll find heaps of stuff about stress. When I first started out in my business, it was very much about stress because of my own journey. And my first business name was Get Savage on Stress. And it did really well. And we learned a lot about stress in those days. But breathing, meditation, and stress management, 30 odd years ago, it was really looked at as like weird and a sect and all strange. And yet in that 30 odd year time frame, it's really changed. So people talk about stress. They even talk about anxiety now, which they didn't used to. Not that we're doing anxiety in this program today, because we're not. It's a big enough subject to have its own podcast. But, these things weren't spoken about. Stress was acceptable. Breathing was poo-hooed as nothing. And meditation, you were quite weird. So it's really changed a lot. And it's a lot easier to speak about these things publicly and generally these days. So stress, what it does, it breaks down the physical body. So it also affects us mentally and emotionally. Stress really affects your mood. If you see someone that's really highly stressed, I guarantee they're not very present, or and they're not great to be around. They're just not present. They're in their stress, they're in their stuff, but they're not pleasant to be around at all. And most likely they're very, very grumpy, short-tempered, and they're just not nice to be around. I mean, we all know this. We creep around stressed people. It can be a lot like walking on eggshells. Oh, don't go in there. She's stressed or he's stressed. So we've all experienced times when we've been stressed and irritable. And we've experienced times when our loved ones have been stressed and really irritable or grumpy. But there's an area of stress that isn't spoken about very much, and that is the spiritual side. And I think people are more open to hearing about the spiritual side these days. So even if we don't believe in that way, it's an energy. So, I could have called it stress and energy, because whether we have a belief or not, these actions that I'm going to speak about are still happening, whatever our beliefs are. So can stress affect us spiritually or energetically? Can it affect our spiritual connection? And can it affect our spiritual development from there? So we're going to look at that today. So we know stress affects us physically, we know it affects us mentally, and we know it affects us emotionally. But what about spiritually? So firstly, let's look at stress And I know firsthand, understanding your stress level is important. That's how I got onto this journey, really. My own stress levels and anxiety levels and panic attacks were through the roof a long time before I finally broke down 30 plus years ago. So we can tolerate a small amount of stress over a long period of time. And we can tolerate a large amount of stress over a shorter period of time. But when we have a large amount of stress over a long period of time, that's the problem. That's where big damage is done. I started my business 30 plus years ago to help people with their stress levels and to teach them how to cope with anxiety and panic. So something in my soul, something deep inside me really drew me. It called me to follow this path. There was no doubt about it. I couldn't have not done it. I needed to, I wanted to, and I was pulled to help other people through their challenges because I didn't want anyone else to go through what I'd been going through. It was terrible. So I learned what to do. I learned how to do it and how to work with contracted energy because really that's what stress is. It's contracted energy. When we look at it from that metaphysical and energetic position, you can see that stress is a contraction and it has varying levels in it, within it. So I learned how to lower stress, how to lower anxiety, and how to stop having a panic attack. Because, if you've had panic attacks and you're listening to this podcast, you know that you start to panic about having a panic attack. So there's this ongoing cycle of anxiety. So this was my entry into this work. Stress, incredible burnout, anxiety, panic attacks, and finally, breakdown. And so we don't want people to get to that stage of breakdown. So today we're going to stick with stress and its effects rather than opening up the anxiety and panic attack side. So I'll do that another time. So without going too deeply into this part, you have to have some stress. You've got to. You have to have some stress to function in life. So you have to have some stimulation or excitement, or otherwise life would become awfully dull and boring and we'd sit on the couch all day. So we need something to stimulate us. So stress isn't all bad. In fact, it has an important function. So having the right balance and being able to recognize and monitor yourself and self-regulate your stress levels is key to a balanced life. I found that out the hard way, as a lot of us do. So there's two types of stress, good stress and bad stress. So bad stress. Bad stress doesn't support us at all, but instead eventually inhibits our ability to function well on a daily basis. It's an overload. So if you've been suffering from chronic stress for a long time, your body will eventually wear out. It really will. It will wear itself out. This is bad stress. The thing with stress is you might feel really stressed one day and the next day you get up and you go, oh, I'm not feeling too bad today. So you get on with life and you soldier on. And it doesn't take long before any little thing makes you feel stressed again because we need to clear it out of the body, literally. We need to clear it from the cells of the body because stress is cumulative. If it's allowed to build up in the system over time, which is what it does, it can wreak havoc in the body. It brings all sorts of symptoms. In my course, I've got lists and lists of symptoms, but I'll just go through a few of them now. So it can bring like insomnia. You can perspire and sweat, get headaches, tension in the body, anxiety, rapid breathing or breath holding, and eventually illness. So these are just a few, but stress is diabolical. It really brings lots and lots of awful things into your life. Stress creates, as I said before, a contraction of energy in the body. It creates a contraction of energy. They look like marbles in the body. There's a lot of physical, mental, and emotional symptoms that start to surface when you're in an overload of stress. So if over a long period of time it goes unchecked, this kind of stress will, it can and will eventually break down the physical body, and it will really affect you mentally as well and emotionally, because, if you're mentally affected, you're emotionally affected as well. Emotions are huge. That's another big subject that we'll do a podcast on. So there's never been a time in history that I know of where we've been so bombarded with technology. We're increasingly available every moment of the day, and we all know this. And, constantly stimulated by phones, computers, television, radio, wireless vibes, and machinery 24/7. That's why I turn my Wi-Fi off every single night. I don't want it on while I'm sleeping because it affects me. I feel the buzz from all of that stuff, unfortunately, which is not very pleasant. So we've lost our stillness amongst the onslaught of so-called modern life. I think some of it's a backward step, but technology is great. I mean, I wouldn't be doing this podcast without it. So it has these wonderful things with it, and also it's got its negative side. The other stress, good stress, is called eustress. And this stress is actually quite good for us. This is the one that I was saying stimulates us. We need that stimulation. It's necessary for life. It also encourages development, expansion, growth of a person. That type of eustress is good for us. It stimulates like an ongoing forward movement, which creates new situations and life experiences. And that's why we're here. That's why we're living. So these experiences bring with them an important a sort of life requirement, which is choices. It brings choices with it. And the choices we make moment to moment are extremely important. Even if we think they're not, they are, because they affect the direction that our lives take and the experiences that follow from that direction. It's when this activation and stimulation to move forward and make new choices is ignored or resisted that the problems of stress become exacerbated and apparent. So it's when we ignore what's going on for us, if we don't like something or we feel affected in a negative way and we still do those things over and over and we ignore those signals, that's when stress becomes a problem. So another form of good stress is one that enables us to survive when we're being or caught up in some negative situation or a traumatic situation. So this stress warns us of danger. It supports us to escape difficult or dangerous situations. So that sort of stress is good. It's a trigger like, whoa, let's get out of here. The dinosaurs are coming. Or, if there's something challenging, if you saw something that was quite negative on the street, your stress levels would go bang, your cortisol would come up and you would be off, you would get going. That sort of stress is a good thing. It's a signal. Stress is always, always, always trying to tell us something. So we need to start listening to it. So stress is the body's way of communicating with us. We learn a lot by being still, just being still and listening, listening to the body. What's it telling you? What's it telling you? So stress is a problem in our society. So I'm going to go through, if we've got time, two client experiences. So Julianne's journey. So some years ago, I received a phone call from Julianne, and she'd been referred to me through someone she knew. I actually don't recall that part of it now. And she was in a really bad state. She told me she couldn't cope anymore. And her brother had committed suicide, and she thought she was going in the same direction. And she was facing significant issues in a long-term, distant relationship. And she was that relationship was not healthy. It was very toxic. And she was dealing with a very controlling boss in her work. So she was surrounded with these really emotional type issues. And she had members of her family that she was estranged from, and she was very upset about that. And she had lots of other pressures in her life at the time. And she was literally in breakdown. So that breakdown is just stress that is enormous, chronic stress over a long time period, and not knowing what to do with that. So she was feeling really desperate and really lost. And she was getting very sick from the stress and anxiety of it all. And at the end of her telling me what was going on, she said, I need help. Can you help me? And I replied, yes, I can. And she told me later that the relief that she felt when I said, yes, I can help you. She said it was so enormous. And she got off the phone and she just cried and cried. And she didn't go ahead with anything, which was the, the wonderful thing. So I worked with Julianne for 6 months. So we worked through her stress levels, her anxiety and her panic, and we got that level down so that then she was more comfortable. So her reactive charged patterns, if I put it that way, we worked with her mindset, and she learned to work with her energy and balance her energy and balance her emotions. And she learned how to connect to her higher power or her soul or whatever you want to call that part of us that is above and feeding life force into us, feeding energy, soul perhaps. And we worked with her spiritually because she'd really disconnected with everything. And she said when she was younger, she was quite religious. And I said, why did you stop that? And she sort of talked it all through. So we worked with her spirituality and she reconnected with her personal religious beliefs again, which brought her so much comfort. And it doesn't matter what we believe, as long as we believe in something that brings us comfort. So she ended, as we worked through all of this, she ended her toxic, abusive relationship. She resigned from her job and ended the toxic and controlling relationship with her boss. She found peace with her brother's passing eventually. She found herself again. That was the main thing that was beautiful. She found herself just like I did years ago. She found happiness. She would walk in and say, I'm really feeling happy. I'm happy. So she was very happy that she was happy. And she made good life decisions from there on. She was really listening to what was going on, coached her quite strongly in boundaries and how to make those choices that served what she wanted in her life and what her values were, which I have in Get Choice Smart, all about values and how we do that so that we can know what they are and we can use them in a really proactive way in our daily lives and actually make great choices. She found a new job that she loved. She loved the people and her boss. She sold her old house. She did that after we finished our sessions, and she bought a new townhouse as well. The main thing that's important here is that she did her daily practice that we set up initially. She breathed and she meditated every day, and she started to really think about the choices that she was making and whether they were in alignment with her higher values. She became pardon me, really strong, stable, and balanced. And it's funny, I bumped into her, I happened to bump into her about 2 years ago. I think it was about 2 years ago. And she always runs up and she says, "You're my lifesaver, my lifesaver." So she said to me, she's really good. And she hugs me with such great love. And every time I see her, it's the same. She's just so happy in her life now. So she's really taken her power back. It doesn't mean her life's perfect, but she knows how to actually drive her life, if you like. She knows how to work with her stress levels, her anxiety, her mindset, her emotions, her actions in her life. She is really, really in charge of her own life now. So I was the guide, not the lifesaver. She actually saved her own life by reaching out and doing those practices. She did the work, she had the courage, and it wasn't always easy. She earned her freedom. She earned her expansion of consciousness. She became a more conscious person and really connecting with her soul, and she earned her happiness. It doesn't happen by accident. It takes focus, it takes dedication and commitment, but it can happen. So if you're feeling stressed, know there is a way forward. So I'd been where she was. I knew how to help her. I was very confident in helping her, as I am anybody that's in that situation. I know what's needed. So I taught her everything that's in my Working with Energy, How to Give a Shift course, and other creation courses that we worked with Julianne. But that was the main thing that I taught her, that Working with Energy, How to Give a Shift course. Oh, sorry about that. I've got a ding going off. So she did the work and she absolutely flew. Now, okay, I'm going to run through another scenario here with Justino. So we've got a little bit of time left. So Justino called me and he said he was a, a colleague of his had given him my name and number. And he told me he was so stressed and so anxious, he had a lot of anxiety, that he couldn't even sit to watch like a television show or just sit or relax. He could not let go at all. His body was in a really bad state. And this guy had the most beautiful marriage, beautiful relationship with his wife. He just loved her so much. And he was really frightened that she would end up leaving him because he just could not be present with her. He couldn't let go. He couldn't even sit and watch a show with her. So the anxiety, he said, was literally killing him. He told me he thought he was going to have a heart attack or get cancer. He said, I'm going to die. I know I'm going to die if this keeps going, because he could not let go. He could not get beyond it. And I know that's like, because that's how I was, sort of 35, 36 years ago. He said he couldn't go out with any friends anymore because he couldn't sit, he couldn't relate, he couldn't connect, he couldn't laugh. He was just too stressed, too anxious. He was really in burnout. He said he needed help desperately. He was, with burnout, what happens eventually, it's such a hot energy. We're really burning out on the inside, which I teach and show energetically what happens in that course, How to Give a Shift. He was imploding. And I think it was really lucky that he came when he did. So he was in a very stressful job, had a lot of pressure over a long time. And as I said, his relationship with his wife was really beautiful. He said it was the one thing that was really great in his life. And he did, again, the Working with Energy, How to Give a Shift course. And he was really dedicated. He got up very early in the morning and did his practices. And he was getting up about 5 o'clock every morning because he was desperate. And he did each session of the course very carefully. And he listened and watched the videos over and over and over. And each time he got new insights. And he would ask me more questions. He did really well. Even within a week, his stress levels had dropped enormously. But he was very dedicated. And he said to me, I feel like every single word you're speaking on those videos, everything you're saying, that you're speaking to me directly, personally. It's like you're in the room saying those things to me. And I laughed because I told him, I know what it's like. I've been there, I've experienced it myself. I know what's happening and I know why it's happening and I know how to work with it. That's why he felt like I was there in the room with him. So I worked with Justino for only 6 weeks. 6 weeks. He did coaching online and he did the online course. And he worked. He really worked. He did everything we set up. So he followed the program very well. So he didn't have any more panic attacks. His anxiety levels went right down. Right down. His stress levels went down. He started making better decisions, better choices. That's so important. And he was able to relax and be more present with his wife. And he said he'd made an appointment with friends to actually go out and enjoy himself again. So he said he felt like himself again. So Justino was not a spiritual person at all. He said he didn't believe in any of that stuff, and you don't have to for it to work. And he did his practices, but he had something surprising happen. One day he said to me, Christine, what is that bright white light that comes in sometimes when I'm doing my practices, when I'm meditating? There's this bright light that's coming in. Oh, I just love it when this happens. I was so excited. I love it. So, whether we believe in spirituality or a higher power or not, the higher power comes through us anyway. We start to have these amazing experiences. Oh, did the sun come out? What's that light coming into me? I really love it. So, when we set up the right environment and practice, the intention, the dedication, this just happens. we have our own experience of spirituality. So Justino found relaxation, he found peace, ease of mind, his body was calm, he was emotionally stable again. So he knew that he could handle anything in life. He knew what to do. He knew how to balance himself from the inside, no matter what circumstances were happening in the outside world. He felt in control. So stress, does it affect our spirituality? I think it absolutely does. The intensity of mental, emotional, and physical pain of stress is torturous when it gets really bad. It really is torture. It's crippling on every level. It affects our spirituality. And I know I'm running out of time before I want to say this, because stress actually cuts off. It's like a rubber band around a channel above your head, and it squeezes and contracts. Stress is a contraction. I will have to talk about this some more in the future because it's such an important thing to understand. So the energy of your soul naturally flows freely in, through, and around your body. But when you're stressed, stress blocks the flow of energy or light into the body, and the body becomes contracted. It pushes in on you. It becomes uncomfortable. So when you understand more about this, you can reverse it. And that's what I do in my course, How to Give a Shift, working with energy. So, all right, I'm going to have to finish up, unfortunately, but all the courses are on sale on my website, soullifeconnection.com. So if you're stressed and you're facing challenges in your life, all is not lost. This is my closing message. You can move forward. You can find peace in your life. Learn to breathe correctly. It's essential. Learn to meditate. It's essential as well. And of courses on these things. Practice them every day. If you give your attention to life, life will give its attention back to you. Okay, life will give its attention back to you if you give life attention, meaning stop still, be still, connect up with your higher self or your soul. One day I'll explain this more. So you can really, really move from a flickering light to a blazing flame, as I like to say, just like I did. So I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. I wish you many blessings, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for tuning in to Higher Soul Living, where you'll ignite your divine intelligence for life with me, Reverend Christine Hart-Savage. Join me every second and fourth Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio for more information and stories that inspire hope, possibilities, and a greater understanding of who you are at a higher soul level. Together we deepen the connection between the spiritual and the physical aspects of your being and align to your soul's innate intelligence. Metaphysics and the higher soul's journey are my greatest joy. I invite you to join our Facebook community, Soul Life Connection Group, and to visit my website, soullifeconnection.com, for more information about me, my programs, my coaching, and to tap into your higher soul's intelligence. I hope to see you next time.